All right, we're good. We're back. Another episode of the Next Go Wins podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I got my co-hosts, Georgie. Look at that. This is next level. We're adjusting the light to match the color of your shirt. How do you feel about that?
I feel like, what did Fernando say? George's next goal wins?
George is the next goal wins.
Okay, I like that, yeah.
And then we got Joe, which I actually think the lighting matches Joe because he's got that gold on the Arsenal jersey. That looks good. That's a nice jersey, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
How we doing, Joe? How the statistics going?
Up to 48, up to episode 48, baby.
Love it.
We just came off of a live as well where there were hundreds of thousands of people thinking about joining the YouTube. And we had a few people join us.
Yeah. So
that's looking good.
We're doing well. Any shout outs? Because I want to start with shout outs. Any shout outs do you guys have? Nothing? You got no friends? What about you, Joe? Nothing?
Calafiore, welcome.
Welcome to the Arsenal, mate. Is that it?
That's it for now.
All right. Want to give a quick shout out to my boy Christian Pacheco, who designed this jersey, the shirt. U.S. Soccer senior designer for the United States, Soccer. So that's a pretty cool job. Gets to design a lot of cool merch, and got this bad boy for me. So shout out to my boy Christian. Shall we get started right away with the pre-cap today, boys? Let's go talk a little bit about Arsenal-Liverpool today. We just watched the game. We just did a live. If you guys are interested in watching some games with us, doing a watch-along, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already, all right, because we will be doing some live games. We also do it sometimes on the TikTok. And then, yeah, just make sure you go subscribe to all of our... Joe's pointing at where the imaginary links should be right now. All right, but it's all the same thing, at the NGW podcast. I want to get into, there's not much going on since the last podcast. We are going to be in, before we get into all that stuff, actually, I forgot, this weekend, we're going to Columbus, Ohio. Next Go Wins podcast is on the road. This time, we're bringing Joe.
On the road again.
We're bringing Joe.
On the road again.
And fun. Georgie. And myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to get there early. We're going to set up some interviews. We're going to do a game day vlog. A little bit of a game day experience, and then probably after the match do some interviews as well, because that's where you get people with the most emotions coming out. Joe, do you have your questions ready to go?
For what? For the interviews?
Yeah, for the interviews.
No. I guess I do have one thing for the group. If there are places around there, whether that be a Manchester City bar or a Chelsea bar, please leave it in the comments for us, and we will try and swing by and get some pregame interviews for you and your mates.
Yeah. We already know some people that are going to the game, so that'll be saying, "What are you smiling about, Georgie? What is this man smiling about over there?"
Do Man City have fans?
I don't think they actually have a. I don't think they have a bar.
I don't think so. Oh man, that's funny.
But yeah, so we'll be there. If you guys are going to be there, let us know. All right, and then want to go into some very early predictions about the Premier League season. Just kind of basing it a little bit about the preseason and what's been going on, some transfers, where we think people are going to finish. I know we're going to change it maybe a couple times, or going into the season it might be a little bit different, but just some very early predictions. Also a transfer segment, current transfers, rumors, not much going on right now, but there has been a couple. Transfer wish list, maybe some players that each of us would like our clubs to purchase, or what we're looking at. And then after that, we'll just finish it up with the laws of the game and some fun facts, because we always put some fun facts in here. And we'll do it maybe a little bit of a trivia version like last time.
In my dream. I had a dream today.
Georgie had a dream.
I had a dream today.
Do you want to go into your dream now? Why don't we go into your dream now?
Do you want me to?
Sure, why not?
But it's about like the rules. So do you want to wait until later?
Oh, it's about the rules?
Yeah. Like it's about something that you can add to football to make it a bit interesting.
Okay. Laws of the game. We can
whatever.
Do it in laws of the game. That's fine.
It's a dream, so it's kind of stupid.
Listen, dreams aren't always stupid. Sometimes dreams create...
Where are you going? Where are you going with this one,
Dreams
buddy?
inspire actual creations.
Yeah, this is not going to expire anything.
All right. So, but we'll talk about it. We'll see how it goes. All right. So we just watched the Arsenal-Liverpool match. Liverpool beating Arsenal 2-1. For the most part, or for the first half, Liverpool probably dominating a little bit more. Possession, breaking down Arsenal's defense. Good solid goals with some really good individual moments. Georgie, let's go to you and talk about how the game played out, what your thoughts are, and maybe some of the top performers for Liverpool.
We're winning the Premier League. No, I'm joking. No. Like I always say, preseason is just about fitness, and especially when you get a new coach in, it's very important to see the style of play that they are bringing into the club and to see if the players are buying into what he's trying to do. And on both sides, the coaching staff and the players, you can just tell that there is a game plan, there's a way of playing, there's a they're tactically sound and trying to execute what they're being told during training sessions, during film sessions, during the games as well. So that's what I look for the most. Obviously, to win a game against the Premier League rival and all that stuff is great, but the most important thing is how you set up and how you play to the tactical abilities of the new manager coming in. And so far in the 2 preseason games that I've watched Liverpool play in, they've been really good in that, in terms of playing to what Arne Slot and his staff wants them to do. Again, it's a lot of fitness. It's getting players back into the team. Jota was one of the first players that on the second round of players coming back that he played today. Konate came back. He did in the future today. But overall, a really, really good, solid performance from Liverpool. No injuries, so that's always a positive in preseason. And I mean, top performers, it's tough to say just one, but if I had to pick one from the first half, it would have to be Jota, because if you compare the first half to the second half, he was one of the main players missing. Liverpool had nobody holding up the ball, being able to hold up the ball, whether it's a little flick, whether it's connecting the play, whether it's just controlling the ball, holding off the defender, passing it back. And the whole second half, we were kind of at the mercy of Arsenal for the most part. But in the first half, I like how Jota would, hold up the ball, lay it off to Harvey Elliott. He would then ping it to Salah making the run, or Szoboszlai, or for the second goal, Fabio Carvalho making the run in. So a lot of positives, no injuries, one more game of fitness for 70 minutes of the starters, and a win. So good start for Arne Slot.
Joe, your thoughts? Disappointing result, but how do you feel Arsenal played?
Yeah, disappointing result for sure. I will say, looking at the stats after the game, we had chances. I think Liverpool did a great job defensively. That was the opposite of us. I think we really, really struggled defensively to cut off the counterattack, as well as keep people into safe positions, I guess I'd say. We let too many people have the ball in dangerous positions. For me, the highlight of the game was probably Harvey Elliott. I think he had 2 assists. He played the ball through to Salah, and he played that nice chip over the top to, was it Carvalho? Yeah, yep. Scored the second one. Odegaard for Arsenal, I think, was by far our best player. And obviously it's preseason, so it's hard to judge how things will look. But I think once we get more of the starters back with Saliba and with Declan Rice, things will hopefully look a little bit different for us. We did have some spells of possession that I really did like, but most of that almost always flowed through Odegaard. So we'll see how we can go, but plenty of time to get things right before the season starts. So I'm not too worried, but that was not how I was expecting that game to go. And I will say props to Liverpool. I think the group is adopting Arne Slot's way of playing pretty quickly. And you could tell that they are very fine with going direct a lot and finding people and breaking people down on the counter. That's how they got most of their chances against us. So if they can play like that, they have the pace out wide to hurt people. And if Harvey Elliott can continue to find those pockets and break lines, Liverpool can be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arsenal slightly disappointed in the fact that I thought we had better players than Liverpool did. I thought we had more of our starters available, and even when they made the changes, I think we had better players coming on, which is why we dominated a little bit more of the second half. But I will give props to Liverpool, Georgie, because Liverpool looks, this early in the preseason, 2 games in, looked like a better team than Arsenal in terms of the way that they were playing together as a unit. You could tell that they believe in Arne Slot's philosophy. They're trying to showcase that in every single one of their games, and they have a system that they're trying to play. So if you're a Liverpool supporter, you should be happy. You're in a good place right now, and I know it's one of those moments where it's a lot of uncertainty because Klopp just left, and people are unsure whether Slot's there to continue kind of the rebuild. It was a bit weird because Liverpool were in the middle of a rebuild right before Klopp left. So I think people are uncertain about what's going to happen, which is why a lot of people gave Arne Slot some criticism. But if you're actually watching the gameplay, you should be pretty happy with where they're at. So Liverpool, solid performance against Arsenal. I think they have one more match each, right? Is it one in the US tour, maybe?
Who do you guys play?
One or two.
Do you
I'd
play?
have to check.
I think Wolves.
I think that might be right. But we'll move on from the Arsenal-Liverpool game. Just another preseason match. Again,
We have Leverkusen, then Lyon.
yeah, so we have a couple more. Premier League season starts like 16th of August, somewhere around there. So it makes sense. They have still a couple games. We'll keep up to date in these podcasts, obviously, talking about the preseason matches. And like I said, we are going to Columbus, Ohio this Saturday. Make sure you guys go and, talk with us because we're going to have the cameras out, microphones out. We're going to be talking about all sorts of Premier League stuff and obviously a little bit about the Manchester City-Chelsea game that we're going to be going to watch. Columbus, Ohio this Saturday, 5:30 p.m. is the kickoff. We'll obviously be there a lot early. So I wanted to switch up the next topic then, going to some very early predictions. But before let's actually wait for that one until we talk about the transfer list, because I think that one comes before the predictions. So transfer wish list. Let me tell you guys really quickly. We'll talk about Chelsea. Chelsea right now just accepted recently about in total with add-ons $40 million for Conor Gallagher from Atletico Madrid. Georgie, what are your thoughts on them selling Conor Gallagher?
I think it's a terrible move. I think he was one of the best players for Chelsea last year in an, I don't want to say awful season, but very up and down season. He was one of the most consistent players. He was the captain for most of the year because Reece James was hurt for pretty much all year. I think he's a player, one of those players that's really hard to find. And he's not going to be the technical player on your team. He's not going to be the guy that creates. He's going to be the guy that connects the creative players from a natural, complete ball-winning six. He's in between. So for me, Chelsea don't really have players like that. I know we were talking about Caicedo. We're talking about Enzo. Lavia's coming back from an injury. Drewsbury Hall, who they just purchased. All of them are good players. But I think Conor Gallagher has something on all those players in terms of the work rate, the communication on the field, being the leader, all those things that people don't really think about, don't really associate. Like when they look at players, they look at the highlights, they look at what they do on the ball and all that stuff, which is great. But like the Jordan Hendersons, the Conor Gallaghers, those players in certain situations, James Milner's, with so much experience and the leadership and the communication that you get from them, is just, you don't really have that in the Chelsea team that's already really young with a new coach coming in. When it comes to his move, I think it suits him perfect for Atletico Madrid because I think that style would suit him under Simeone. I think he's going to fit that style, the hard work, the style of football that Atletico Madrid brings. It's exactly what he represents in a way. So I think it's a good move for him. I think it's a loss for Chelsea. And if I was a Chelsea fan or just Chelsea overall, on my mind, I would have had at least 5 players I would have sold before Conor Gallagher because he was amazing at Crystal Palace. He was really good at Chelsea. He even came in to play in England. I know he didn't do that great when he came out for England in the Euros, but to be a national team player for a team that went to a final and for you to be getting sold for, I know it was, with add-ons can go up to about 40 mil, but 32 or 33 mil up front, it's unreal. If they were selling him to another Premier League team, I think that amount is at least 50, 60 mil.
Yeah, fair enough. With that, the other piece of it for Chelsea is a possible swap deal with Lukaku and Osimhen from Napoli. So I'll pass it to you, Joe. If Lukaku does enter a swap deal for Osimhen, what's the price tag that you would put on top of Lukaku? Because there's no way they're going for a straight swap.
What's the price on him? I'd say anywhere from 70 plus, because I think what Victor's done in Italy proves what he's worth, and I think they can get 100 million for him. I guess it depends on where they would value Lukaku, but it's one of those things that, number one, I'd be disappointed if that happens because he's been linked with clubs like Arsenal. Number two, I feel like a lot of people go to Chelsea and it just doesn't work out. And I could see that happening again. Obviously, we'll see new coach, new leadership, could be a drastically different club. Only time will tell. But to me, Chelsea, I kind of disagree with Georgie a little bit that I'm fine with them moving on from Gallagher just because they have so many different players in the midfield that like you have to get rid of some of these people and you have to start building, I think, a locker room of people that are really bought into whatever it is you're trying to build and where you're going. Not saying that Conor Gallagher isn't, but you have to kind of whittle. Less is more to me in this type of mentality where you have to kind of whittle the squad down. But in terms of Osimhen coming in, I think it would be a hefty price tag, but Chelsea's proven plenty of times that they're willing to pay it. And if they can get him and offload Lukaku with his wages, I think they're trying to find anyone who will do that. I don't know if Napoli would though, but we'll see.
I think it's also slightly for me. It's political, and the reason I say that is because selling Conor Gallagher, who is an academy player, who came through the academy, who you didn't pay any real money for. I mean, I don't know when they acquired him, but when you think about how many players that they've spent money on, it would feel way worse if you just sold somebody that you spent a bunch of money on because it didn't work out, and you sold them for a lot less than what you paid. It feels much better when you sell somebody who came up from the academy because it's like money that you've essentially gained. So it takes the sting out of all the money that they've spent, and not wasted, because I don't think it's that these players haven't worked out. I think it's just Chelsea in terms of a team system hasn't worked out. But I think with the right coach, which maybe Maresca could be, you could have all of those players finally start to work out, all those players they paid a lot of money for. So I think from a business perspective and politics, it looks better that they actually sold someone, made some money back from, instead of trying to just sell somebody who you feel like didn't work out just yet. But Maresca got his first win today. Is it his first win? Maybe they won one of their other preseason matches, but they got beat. Everybody knows they got beat 4-1 against Celtic.
Yeah, and I think they tied 2-2 with Wrexham.
They tied, right? That's right.
I think so.
So they just beat America, which is a Mexican
2 penalties.
team. 2 penalties. I think the final score was like 3-0. So probably feels a little bit better, sure. But then when you think about teams like they're playing against Wrexham, Celtic, and America, whereas Liverpool is playing against Arsenal, Real Betis. Who else are they playing? Man United. So, yeah. So I don't know if I'd feel too good about it if I'm a Chelsea fan, but at least they got their first win. So my boy Eddie's gonna be happy about that so far.
They do play City.
Do they?
We're going.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm not even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
that's the one we're going to. So that's gonna be interesting to see
Good
how.
test for them, for sure.
That's right. Even though City's the team that lost the most amount of players during the summer, like in terms of the players not coming back on time.
Yeah.
So they haven't gotten very good results, or they haven't been doing very well, to be honest. So they're still I don't know. They're not in as good as Liverpool or Arsenal right now. I think because Arsenal and Liverpool are starting to finally get most of their players back. But we'll see what happens, because if it's a pretty bad loss to Manchester City, you're going to have a lot of people asking questions, which I know some people on Twitter are already saying Maresca out.
After the Wrexham game, it was
really?
It was great. Chelsea TV, they were like, get this guy out, like his tactics are not working, blah, 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 all this. I was like...
Do they expect... I don't know.
It's
people expect it to be, I feel like, FIFA.
And
where it's like the players can adopt the tactics immediately.
Yeah.
Like it takes so long.
Robots.
Yeah. Look at what Arteta's doing. It's taken years. And even now, even in these preseason games, things aren't moving the way it wants to. And a lot of those players have been there for 2, 3, 4 years.
It's tough to get your tactics across, especially a new manager coming into it.
Yep. Arsenal doing pretty well in the transfer market. Got Calafiori.
Bastards.
Just joined the camp. Did not play in their last game, but probably will feature in the next one, I would assume, after a few training sessions with the team. We're looking at Mikel Merino from Real Sociedad for 30 mil, somewhere around 30 mil.
That's
So
cheap.
it says
That's what we need right there.
talks are advancing. Midfielder who Mikel Arteta's very fond upon or whatever. So he wants to bring him in. He's excited. So we'll see what happens. But Arsenal, I'm very happy that in the last couple of years, basically since Arteta's come in, they've been strategic about their transfers, but they've been very supportive. Whereas you can't say the same for Liverpool, right? Like that's the first thing that Klopp, and that's one of the things that Arne Slot said as well, is like, it is what it is. We can only buy certain players, and if we can't buy the ones that we want, we can't buy the ones that we want. Whereas Arsenal, I think, have been pretty supportive about spending a little bit more money just to make sure it pays off. So we'll see how that deal goes. But yeah, I mean, there's a few things going on, but not really too much in the transfer world right now. I think as we get closer to the season, you'll see some final transfers. Liverpool obviously needing a couple different positions. So with that transfer wish list, Arsenal, I would assume Joe probably needs a center striker, would you say?
Yeah, I'd say an 8, like a box-to-box midfielder, as well as a true striker. And it sounds like we might be getting our box-to-box midfielder with Marino, which would be nice, but we still need a number 9.
And I don't know if there's too many out there that we would, like right now, that we'd want to take.
The Sporting guy. Like you guys have been linked with him for a little bit now.
Yeah.
The guy from Sporting, Victor Guy
Correz,
yeah,
I think.
something like that.
Yeah, him. I mean, we've been linked with like Isak, which I don't think will happen at this point. But
Ivan Toney for a little bit.
Yeah, Ivan Toney, but I don't think that will either. Also, too, though, the thing I guess I do like about us, although we're not making a ton of moves, we are, to your point, Javi, intentional now. And if Arteta doesn't think that they'll fit in, he'd rather sign nobody, which it's not. In the past, it wasn't like that. We'd spend lots of money on people and just see how it works out. Where now it's like, hey, if I don't think they can really come in and impact the squad positively, we're just not going to sign anybody and just kind of save the money for where we really need it, which so far has worked out well, knock on wood.
So, Georgie, let's talk about Liverpool. What do you guys need? Who ideally would you want to sign? And obviously Liverpool's limited on funds, but what would be the positions and the players that you would want?
Defensive mid, 100%. That's the number one priority for me. That was even last year. I would have said defensive mid, especially now watching Arne Slot, the way he likes to play. You need a very technical, but also a player that's willing to put in a tackle and chase and work hard. So I'm a huge fan of Joao Gomez from Wolves. He played for Brazil in the Copa. He's very on the defensive side. He's not even a 6. He's more of an 8. But I would love him in Liverpool. There's few names that have been linked, but nothing concrete. But a 6 is a must. A left-footed center back that can also slide into the left back position at times. That's why I really wanted Calafiori. And then a wide player, just because we need somebody that's a bit more direct with pace. That's something that Liverpool don't really. I know we talk about pace in terms of like Darwin is quick, Salah, Luis Diaz as well, but like somebody like Anthony Gordon, which is I'm a huge fan of. He's not one of those players where he's gonna do like moves like Salah, like take a few touches, try to like get the guy off balance and go around him. He's more of like take a touch, speed, direct, go into the box or cross, whatever it is, and that's what Liverpool need. And that's why I was a big, I kept pushing for England to play him at the Euros, because I thought England at times needed that just direct outlet. So those would be the 3 positions for me.
Now, do you think you guys are going to lose Luis Diaz? Because you mentioned that he wants to go to Barcelona. That's been his dream club to play for. So do you think you guys might lose him?
So today was the big day where the Anthony Gordon news came out in the morning, and it was said that in the beginning of the transfer window, Liverpool and Newcastle agreed for Joe Gomez to go to Newcastle for 45 million and for us to buy Anthony Gordon for 75 million. If that's the case, it leads me to believe that Liverpool think that Diaz wants to go. in which if a player wants to go, there's, you don't want to stand in their way. Obviously, that happened about a month ago. It also came out today. The Newcastle, because of their problems a month ago, offered Isak to Liverpool, and Liverpool didn't want to buy him. So it's very, very interesting because I would have jumped both of them. I would have just taken them. So it's very interesting what Liverpool are doing. This, just staying patient and waiting for Arne Slot to assess the team, like they've been saying from the start, to see what he lacks, if the players can adapt and all that. But if Diaz does go, I think Anthony Gordon happens. And I think it's already going to happen. And he's flirting with the idea of Liverpool because he just had an interview 2 days ago that came out of, I don't know, somebody asked him, who is your favorite player of all time? Steven Gerrard. Who's the one player that you look up to and works so hard that's a similar player that you like to be? Mo Salah. So it's like flirting with the idea about Liverpool. He's openly said Liverpool is his favorite team, his childhood team. So I think it's just a matter of time. What I think happens is if we don't get him this year, Liverpool get him in the summer next year just because he has 1 year left in Newcastle and they're not going to let him go for free. So they might as well get some money out of it. So at some point, I do think Anthony Gordon becomes a Liverpool player, whether it's this or next.
So I think we should probably talk a little bit about other teams and what transfers, just because we're not supporters of Chelsea or Man City or Manchester United, but we should talk about what would make them a little bit better. So Chelsea just lost is most likely going to lose Conor Gallagher. That deal is almost done. The only player I can think of right now is that they signed was Jorgensen, the goalkeeper.
Dewsbury Hall.
Dewsbury, oh yeah, that's it. Do you think they need any more players than that, or do you think that's... I mean, they've essentially, Chelsea has already purchased players last season that should be still good for this season. Their club should be in pretty good spot. Obviously, they didn't have a great season. Hopefully, Maresca changes that. But do you think they need to sign any more players, or do you think Dewsbury Hall's it and that's it?
They need a center back, a ball-playing center back. I don't think any of those center backs are good enough or to the standard of the way Maresca wants to play. And if you don't have a center back that can pass the ball and pick out passes between the lines or ping those balls, I don't think you'll be very successful. Where you see most Premier League teams now, they're really good and play with that style. They all have center backs that are really good on the ball, confident, can ping a ball, can find passes in between the lines for the midfielders. And I don't think Chelsea have that at all.
Yeah. But it will be interesting to see how they do as a team. Hopefully 2 years in, the players get to know have known each other a little bit better, and Maresca is the right coach, because we all know Chelsea, in terms of their managers, they don't give them very much time. There's no rebuilds at Chelsea, especially when you spend that much money. Joe, I'll put it over to you. Manchester City. Let's talk Manchester City. Who do you think, if anyone, do they need? Do they really need to buy anyone, or are they good with where they're at? What do you think?
The only thing I think that they could, I wouldn't say that they need, but would be helpful for them, would be some type of replacement for Rodri. And I think they've tried to get him a backup in different iterations every single year, whether that's with Nunez or whether that is with like Calvin Phillips, and it hasn't worked out. Because to me, he's the only person on that team that if they lose him, it drastically impacts the team and they don't have someone to replace him. Like, obviously losing Haaland would be difficult, but they have other players who can score goals. They can get goals from other places. I mean, they won the Premier League last year and De Bruyne missed the vast majority of the season. The only player to me, though, that they cannot lose is Rodri. And I think it just goes to show when you look at his win-loss rate, like there's very few games, whether that's for Spain or City. I think it's 2 in the past like year or 2 that he's lost when he's started and played the game. So it's absolutely incredible how well he keeps that team together. But I could see that, needing that. Attacking-wise, I don't see them needing anything. Defending, I don't see them needing anything.
So did either of you guys watch the game yesterday against Barcelona?
Yeah.
No.
Georgie watched it. Georgie, your thoughts on Calvin Phillips playing center back yesterday?
The guy is just his confidence is completely gone. He's nowhere near the player he was at Leeds. And the crazy thing is, at Leeds, he did play center back at times, and he was actually really good as a center back. That's one of the utilities, I guess. I was like, when Man City got him, I was like, maybe Pep sees him more of a center back because he is good enough on the ball, so he can pick out those passes. But he had a nightmare of tracking, of passing, of just being aware, communicate, anything. And then in the end, to top it all off, takes a penalty and it just misses. And you can just tell, like, one, it must be really awkward for him to be at City. And I think the only reason he's at City right now is because it's preseason and they don't have other real players.
I mean, he was the only center back, not true center back, but he was the only known center back that played for them yesterday. So
he's gone. Like
he's probably gone.
Yeah.
What also doesn't help is that he went out on loan. And if you're going out on loan from a team like Manchester City, the only way that you come back and stay is if you do really well on loan. Because if you do bad on loan, there's no chance that you're going to come back and do well at Manchester City. He went to West Ham last year, had a bit of a nightmare as well.
Mm-hmm.
Some big mistakes. Part of the reason why his confidence is also kind of gone. But what team do you think? Because obviously West Ham didn't work out for him, and I don't think it was the team. I think it was just his confidence. But what team is going to take a chance on him now that he would actually benefit from? Is it somebody away from England? He needs to go off to Spain, off to Germany, or again just stay with an English team that's a little bit lower down the table.
I could see, I guess, one of the teams maybe coming up, picking him up. But again, it's then you run the risk of like, how much is City going to let him go for? Because they spent a decent amount on him.
Yeah.
That they might just rather just keep him and just say, So you have to find a team who wants him, can afford to pay what City's going to ask, and hope it works out, because it's not like he's showing that it works. So the only thing I could think is one of these, either a relegation battle team or a team coming up, which would probably still be in the relegation battle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, kind of sucks because he had so much promise. He was such a good player that people thought was going to be very good for Manchester City. He was obviously a great player when he was at Leeds. And maybe that's why he would do well going to a team that's relegation battle team coming up, is that he's done that with Leeds when they at first come up.
Yeah.
Well, Southgate still misses him, so
Southgate still can't find a replacement for him.
He'll follow Southgate wherever he goes.
Yeah.
What about Manchester United? We don't talk too much about Manchester United. As we're recording this podcast right now, they're up 3-1 at halftime against Real Betis, so they're doing pretty well. Ten Hag, I think, managed to stay in the role as manager of Manchester United, where it looked like it was very uncertain whether he was going to stay, whether they were going to go a different route. They've decided to keep him. He's been here, 3 years now? This is going to be his third year, maybe, somewhere around there. Georgie, your thoughts on Manchester United in the transfer market? Obviously, Leny Yoro just was a big transfer that they just got. Seems like he's going to be out. Fabrizio Romano's reporting 3 months, according to Manchester United. Fractured metatarsal. So, does that make you more inclined to continue in the transfer market? Do you just kind of wait for him to return? Because you're missing about a month and a half of, maybe a little bit more than a month and a half, 2 months of him not being there. So, talk us through, I guess, who do you think they should get? What does their team look like right now?
It's tough because you bring in a player that's supposed to be your center back, the future of your team for the next 5 to 10 years, with so much promise, for big money, big wages, and then he gets injured in the first preseason game, or second, whatever it was. But I think if you're Man United, you have to. You have Maguire and Lindelof right now, who are the two center backs. Varane left because he didn't want to pay his wages because he's always injured. You do have Johnny Evans as well. But if you're going into a season with one of those three in the two pairing, it's not going to... I don't think Ten Hag is very comfortable with that. But you also have Martinez, but I don't know how healthy he is. He just had the Copa.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to come in late. Who knows what kind of a shape he's going to be in by the time he ends. Since they went all the way. So he's probably not going to play the first 1 or 2 games. I do think they go back for De Ligt, because that was one of the other transfers that they try to do throughout the whole entire summer. And with the injuries that Man United have had in the past few seasons, De Ligt would make sense because he wouldn't be too much money. I don't think from Bayern, probably another 30, 40, which for Man United, it's nothing really. They pay big wages, so he'll have no problem. The only problem with him is his injury record. So you're buying another player that's a reason why you didn't want to sign Varane because he's always injured. Then you go and spend 40 mil and give big wages to another player that's always injured. So to me, that wouldn't really make sense. But they've been linked with him throughout the whole entire summer. And up until the Yoro deal, I thought that he was the one that they're going to sign for their center back. So also Rasmus got hurt. He's going to be out for about 6 weeks. However, I do like Ahmad, their winger, the young winger. He played last season against Liverpool. He had a breakout game against them, and then after that, he started to play really, really good. Left-footed player, tricking the ball, quick, direct, goals at players, has the confidence. So I think he's going to play a big part. And I would say that he would start over Anthony this season, just because Anthony hasn't done too much. But and then Sancho, I think, is on the way out. So just a lot of movements at Manchester United. I don't know. They do need another center back.
I think for Manchester United, it's also one of those situations where you don't necessarily need to go into the transfer market for certain positions as long as the players that you have get back to a good form. Because like Bruno, first season, came on, was fantastic for Manchester United. Last season, didn't do so well. Kind of just fell back a little bit. So you're hoping if he gets back to being one of the more impactful players, then Manchester United are set in that midfield a little bit. Or at least in that position. Garnacho has been playing a little bit better. I think at times he's still a little inconsistent just because he's so young and so explosive that he's one of those players that at times can kind of go missing, but then at times he wins you the game. So I think if you have those players kind of get back to their form, I think you are looking at less transfers. However, Manchester United is a team that I would say has a few different holes to make their team really, really a top 4 contender, get Champions League. But as long as Bruno, Garnacho, I mean, even if Anthony does better, if he shows that he's worth somewhat a fraction of that 100 mil price tag or whatever, Rashford as well, right? So like he's always been linked, or he's always been talked about as being inconsistent because he has some amazing moments, and then so. And then Sancho as well. Like Sancho, apparently, they've been, not that they've made up, but the argument is over. Him and Ten Hag are back on speaking terms. He's been training with the team. So it looks like that situation is over. Whether he leaves or he stays is a different story, but at least he's finally back as an option for Manchester United. So you think about that, and then Manchester United are in a better spot.
They did sign Zirkzee as well.
That's right.
So I like him a lot. I actually think he's a really good player. So they do have cover for Rasmus, who just got injured. So in a way, that kind of
worked itself out.
Obviously, you don't want to have injuries, but
yeah. So with that, let's go into our very early predictions for the Premier League. We can easily say, me and Joe will sit here and say Arsenal first, Manchester City second, most likely. Yep. I'm not going to speak for Joe, but I'll actually just hand it off to Joe. Joe, give us your top 4 right now, based on not just what you've seen in the preseason, but also the potential of all the players coming back and where you see them with the new coaches and all that.
It might surprise you guys here. I'm going to go Arsenal, City, Tottenham, Liverpool. That I think Big Ange has made some moves over the last few seasons and is getting things. I actually think Tottenham will compete like Liverpool did for the title for a long portion of the season, and then will fall off at some point. But I do see them up there.
To be fair, they do that consistently.
Javi loves Big Ange.
I don't like
loves
Big
his
Ange.
tactics.
I hate his tactics. I absolutely hate him. But I was right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I was right over his tactics and stuff like that, but he did not deliver throughout the course of the season. He had a few good moments that everybody was excited about.
First 10 games.
First 10 games. And then after that, it dropped off. And I honestly think people were misled extremely when he had the game where he went down to 9 players and he played that super high line. And everybody's like, oh, this is who we are. We're Tottenham. And Big Ange says that we're not going to change who we are. It was stupid. You lost the game easily when Liverpool did the exact same thing that season and were 1 minute away from getting a draw in that game.
Don't remind me of that game.
But fantastic. But what I'm saying is that Klopp played that fantastically, the way he played it.
But they both lost.
They both lost.
You always say it, just at the end of the day, it just comes down to the result.
Exactly.
And it was the same result.
I agree with you, but I don't agree with you because the reason I don't agree with you is because it was, if you look at the percentages.
Because Matip scored an own goal in the 94th minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the chances of that happening again.
And technically, I mean, Liverpool won that game anyways because Diaz scored in the first half and it didn't count.
Yeah.
And it should have counted.
Fuck.
I'm just saying, if I'm going to, we're getting off on a tangent here, but what?
George's
all I'm saying is that I'm not. Yeah, I don't think Ainge has the players to do the things that he wants to do. And I agree with Georgie. I think they'll have a good run of games, maybe at the beginning, and then they'll drop off and then be 4th, 5th, somewhere around there for the rest of the season. So Georgie, I'm gonna give it to you. Top 4 right now.
Arsenal are at the moment. Arsenal are the favorites for me.
What, Joe? Can we cut this?
We can end it. This is it.
It?
We've made it. We're not going to make it to episode 50 or 100. We finally have gotten Georgie to say Arsenal will win the Premier League.
I'm a fair man. I always speak fairness. I think Arsenal are the favorites, especially with Calafiori, on top of an amazing defense like that you guys already had.
With the best back line in the league, and then we added him.
I think if you can...
And got Timber back, so we literally added 2.
If you could give Arteta an option to play with 11 center backs, I think he definitely would, but that's just me. I think he would have a center back in goal if he could. How many center backs did you guys play with last year? 5 on the field at one time?
I don't know about that.
It was.
Center backs?
Well, because if you consider Tomiyasu and Ben White center backs, and then he would bring in Holding.
Yeah.
To seal up games.
So
best defense in the league, my friend.
And then like Calafiori, like it just gets better. Arsenal will be 1. I'm gonna go something crazy. I'm gonna spice it up. Aston Villa 2.
Aston Villa 2. Bro, what are you on? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just say we've been in the studio for a long time today because we did a live.
No, you know why?
Georgie's not thinking correctly.
And it's hot. Georgie's dehydrated.
Look, I'll tell you why. Because Man City are going to be relegated, so everybody knows. All the players will start leaving.
Points deduction.
Yeah, No. But honestly, Aston Villa have had an amazing summer with transfers. And building on last year, I think they're going to get better. And again, with the transfers they've brought in, I really do think that they take it a little bit higher and a little bit better. But yeah, like Arsenal are clear favorites to me right now. It's not even like close for me. If I had to put money on it, which
you are a betting man, George.
Yeah, maybe I should just sprinkle a little bit on Arsenal just because of everything. Look, if Man City in the next 3 weeks go and buy some players, I'll think different.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of time left in the transfer window, and Manchester City will not leave any holes in there.
Yeah.
In fact, they want to have a couple players on the bench that they've easily spent $100 million on, just in case.
Yeah,
somebody's not performing. But that's what makes Manchester City so good is that they're not complacent. They're completely against the motto of if it's not broke, don't fix it. They're like, if it's not broke, like
break it and build it better.
Exactly. Like keep breaking it, keep building it better. Don't let anybody think that their spot is guaranteed. Because you have players like Kevin De Bruyne, even Rodri, who if you have a few bad games, you're sitting on the bench and somebody else is taking your spot for a little bit until they have some bad games.
Pep doesn't care.
No,
he's ruthless.
Yeah. But that's why they've won back-to-back.
Well, what you sent me last week about Alvarez. Remember, he's like, well, he'll think about it because that's what Alvarez said in a press conference or whatever. I'll think about it and see if I want to leave or stay. Pep's like, okay.
It's a bit of drama.
Let him think about it. We'll see what happens. He played a decent amount. If he's not happy, okay.
I mean, he let Cole Palmer walk. No issues at all. And then even afterwards, people are like, "Oh, do you regret letting him go?" He's like, "No. Why would I let? No, I don't."
There was a bit of drama there because Julian Alvarez said, "It's true. I was one of the players with the most minutes in the team." He's like, "But you never know for next year. I got to think about what I want to do." And Pep was like, basically kind of said, like, okay, you're not happy with the amount of minutes that you got, even though you were one of the players with the most minutes, and you still have to think about it. It's fine. Go ahead, think about it. I think it's a bit of a slight dig, like saying, like, you think you're better than us? Like, all right, that's fine, no problem. If you want to leave, get out of here. We don't want you. But Julian Alvarez said, he went back and said, like, yeah, I'm just thinking about it. He says, I'm happy. Manchester City is a good place. I'm happy. So a little bit of drama. I don't know. Watch him not get any minutes of this whole Premier League season because he said that. All right. For me, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to give you the top three. So I think it's going to be Arsenal. I think it's going to be Manchester City. And I think it's going to be Liverpool. I do. Because I like Arne Slot's style. I think you guys... I might change it. I might change it because if you guys don't sign anyone, you guys are out. I'm taking it out.
Dang, he's giving us the boot.
Not that I don't like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, or Endo, but you guys need...
Don't forget McAllister.
I keep forgetting because he's been gone for what it seems like forever. I still think you guys need a game changer in the midfield, and I don't think you guys have one with any of those guys. But I think they're trying to be a little bit more strategic in the transfer window. So I'm going to say Liverpool third, as long as the transfer window goes well. They make a couple more signings. Fourth, I think, is contested between Chelsea, Tottenham, and low chances for Manchester United. There might be another team in there. You know, there's always like the Aston Villa or, I don't know, Brighton or one of those teams that's going to have a good run of games. But I can give you the top three pretty confidently that those guys will be in the top four. Those three. So it's really early. We'll see if we change our predictions because after the transfer window's over or when the season starts.
One injury away in preseason.
Exactly. That's the thing. We are one injury. Leny Yoro. One injury away. And all of a sudden.
Man United, I was going to pick them to win the Premier League, but now Yoro's out.
Now he's out.
All right. So let's move on. Let's go into the next segment, which is laws of the game. I'll start with mine, and then Georgie, you can tell me your dream that you had, because Georgie had a dream that he's been wanting to talk about. So this is going to be interesting for the Premier League season because it's the first season that's going to have the semi-automated offsides added to the Premier League.
Oh, it's going to speed up the game so much. So they don't have to worry about forgetting to draw the lines again. God.
So are we all pretty good are we all in agreement that this is a positive change and a low controversy change for the Premier League?
Yeah. Can we start with plus 3 points on the board from last season? Because
no, that's not how this works.
Yeah. Sorry, Georgie.
I will say the only down, I agree with the change. I think most people agree with the change. The only downside I see is there will be less goals just because the semi-automatic offsides is so accurate. I just think of the Euros and how many people were a toe. Lukaku, I think, had 3 or 4 goals disallowed by a toe, a kneecap, that I think some of those sneaked by with the lines. So there'll be less goals, but at least they'll be right.
Yeah. And so let me give you a little bit of background information on semi-automated offsides technology because some people may be unaware. They used it first. They tested it somewhere, and then they used it at the World Cup in Qatar. And that was the first time that it was really shown to the public and kind of explained. The beautiful thing about it is that it's pretty quick decision. There's no messing around with camera angles and lines. It's all 3D. It kind of does it for you. The way it works is that there's 10 cameras added to each stadium, all right, around the stadium. They record 29 data points on each player because of the cameras. So 29 data points because that number specifically, those are all the different points that can be used to track the offsides. So things like your knee, your ankle, your toe, things like that. 50 frames per second is what they're using. So 50 frames per second, if you guys aren't aware with how cameras work, a frame is just a picture. Imagine 50 pictures each second in 1 second. That's how accurate they can get, whether it's offsides or not. And that means you're definitely going to have the right. You're not going to be worried about, the camera angles were off or whatever. The camera wasn't quick enough to capture the way exactly when the ball was kicked, things like that. and AI determines the decision. So the computer software, whatever, that's what determines the decision that then gets sent over to the VAR and to the referees. But the only difference from this one and the Qatar one, you guys will be interested to hear this, there's no ball sensor.
That's what I was going to ask, because that's when they take the snapshot, is with the ball sensor, right? Because if they're not going to have that.
So the ball sensor will tell you obviously when the ball was kicked, right? Because it'll know the impact.
Very important.
The very important part. Why are they leaving that part out?
I don't know why that's the difference from the Qatar World Cup in this one, but I think it's partly because I would assume that it's not necessary. Because as long as you have 50 frames per second, you can picture, with those cameras, you can picture exactly when the ball was hit. You don't need to know when it was hit because you have the pictures of it.
What was it at the Euros? Did they have the sensor? Or
no? They had the sensor because that's how they figured out a lot of the handballs.
So
remember
you guys
that
also
thing, and it would look like a heart rate monitor. That was the ball sensor of like if something hit the ball, something touched the ball. So,
but you guys also got to know that there are different technologies and different companies that do this. So remember when the goal line technology was coming out, and they were testing like 3 different companies. One was like Hawkeye, one was like, I don't know, whatever they were called. So there's different companies that do this, and they all do it slightly different. So it could be that this is just a different company presenting it in a different way, but it's very similar technology or very, very much the same. So the only other weird thing about it is that this is going to be installed not at the beginning of the season. So this isn't going to be there from the very beginning because of the amount of technology and installation that has to go through each stadium. It's supposed to be either after the Christmas break or like slightly before the Christmas break or something like that. Or I could be wrong with exactly when it's going to be brought out, but I know it's not going to be there at the beginning of the season. So is it fair? Is it fair or unfair? Potentially. However, it's for everyone. It's not like Manchester United's going to get it at their training ground before, or at Old Trafford before, Chelsea gets it at Stamford Bridge or whatever.
Yeah, so it'll just be unlucky based on how it plays out for some clubs.
Yep.
To me, it's why not just wait then and do it next season? Why is it a rush to do it? Because you weren't rushing to do it for this season. Otherwise, I think you already have it done. Why not just wait one more year? But whatever.
Yeah, but you're also, let's say 4 weeks go by without it, right? Let's say four match days go by without it. If there's not that many situations, there's only 1 or 2 situations that happens in those 4 weeks. That's like really tight. It's not going to be. It doesn't make sense why you would have to push it until next year just because you didn't have it at the beginning. Because there's only a certain amount of situations that really require this technology.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the reason why they're doing it is because they've agreed that it's better to have it than to not have it. So it's better to have it late than to not have it, or just to push it. So that'll be an interesting one because I think that's obviously going to be. Hopefully, they're hoping that takes a little bit of criticism off the referees and some of the decisions that they made with the way that they paint the lines and draw the lines and the VAR and stuff like that. So we'll see. But crazy how much technology now we have versus 10, 15 years ago we didn't have anything.
So now instead of listening to the refs in the VAR room talk about the lines and all that stuff, we're going to have people at home trying to hack the AI thing to change the decision.
Isn't it crazy though? Like it started with the goal line technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that happened after one of the World Cups where England that got screwed over, right?
Lampard chipped Neuer in Germany. Yeah.
That was a little bit of a debate, but as soon as that play happened, everybody was like, we need to have it because this can't happen again.
Yeah.
And then they introduced the VAR, and the VAR was the most controversial thing that they've introduced so much.
Yeah.
Are we getting to a point where like technology is taking over too much of the game? Because the VAR is already a big problem with the goal celebrations, the amount of time that it takes, all of that. Or is this just the way we just have to accept that this is the way the world works now, that we have technology, we should use it, and that's just going to be part of the game, that in 20 years there's probably going to be 2 or 3 more things that are added to the game that's going to be done by AI or some sort of high-level technology?
I'm a big fan of the goal line technology. I'm a big fan of the automated offside that's about to come into the Premier League. I hate VAR because the whole thing is a gray area. What's an obvious error? Nobody knows. I don't know what the ref is thinking. I don't know what VAR is talking about. I have no idea what's a clear and obvious error. they say they're not trying to re-ref the game from the VAR room, but for the most part, that's what's happening because they change decisions left and right, then sometimes they don't. I think if you have the factual stuff left to technology, which is the goals and offsides, let the rest be. Take VAR out. You don't have to look for potential red cards, yellow cards. Have them potential red cards are given and half aren't, and they look exactly the same. So nobody ever knows what's a red card, what's not for the most part, because they're controversial. One referee might think it is, like 3 in a room, VAR, 2 of them think it is, 1 doesn't. That shouldn't be happening like that. Also, handballs. To this day, I still don't know what at the Copa it happened. The Jamaica game. There's 2 PKs in the same game. It both went to VAR. One, the guy was a yard away, headed into the guy's elbow. They called it a PK. In the second half, for the opposite team, the guy heads it. The guy opens his arm up like this. They don't call it. Yeah. It's like you don't really know what is what. So for me, the 2 are fine. The technology is fine. It's just the people running in, the decision making. It's still based on people. It's not technology. You get a chance to look at it again, but we're still making the same mistake again. Or you can just have a different view of somebody else. So it's not clear and obvious. So it's
yeah. The problem is there's a lot of gray area in this game that if you were the guy who was making the rules, it's easy for us to say, obviously, because we're not the ones in charge of like what rules need to be changed and stuff like that. And imagine the person that has to write the verbiage of how the rule is written, because that can get really complicated. Like handball, so much gray area because you can have your hand in 100 different positions and 50 of those will be so different in determining whether it's a penalty or whether it's not a penalty. So,
and they change it every year.
Yeah,
they do change it every year, don't they? That's the problem. They change it every year and it's still the same. At the end, it just goes back to the same thing.
I remember when they changed the first year of like anything inside the box is a handball, and people would just start flicking into people's hands. It was like, no, but it's like, what do you want me to do?
Now it's natural position, but the natural position, the problem is whether you're standing versus whether you're jumping, because whether you're jumping, you're going up for a header, your hand is in a different position than if you're standing. There's too much gray area with the handballs. I think it needs to be, does it give you a real advantage, and do you have enough time also to react? Because that's the problem. Like, your hand might not be in a natural position, but somebody smashes the ball at you, you have no time to react.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you going to call that a penalty? Because I had nothing. Like,
or the ball deflect. There's so many where the defender's jumping and the ball deflects off someone's head in front of them and then comes up, where it's like, dude, the ball was not coming towards my hand at all. He touched it from a yard away and then bam. Yeah. Of course, So
we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Georgie, let's go into, you've been excited to talk about this. Talk about your dream. What happened with, it's got laws of the game, or this is why it's in the laws of the game segment, you said.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. So for some reason, I was dreaming about my boy, Patty the Batty. So think about this. You know how at the UFC, for Fight of the Night, they give those fighters
extra
give them
money. Typically like a $50,000 bonus, yeah.
Yeah. So imagine it would I don't know if it will create that much of a difference, but imagine every weekend the Premier League said most exciting game gets X amount of money, like a bonus each team. Then you wouldn't have teams. Well, maybe you might. I don't know. Like it just depends where you were. But those 2 teams get an X amount of money just because they're the most entertaining game.
Joe, do you see any potential issues with this?
I think a lot of teams like won't care too much. Like if you're fighting for the Premier League title, you're fighting for X amount of dollars because it's different. You're giving a $50,000 bonus to one person. It's a lot of money for one person. Now you're taking $50,000 and splitting it up against...
No, 1 million.
Okay. 1 million a game?
Or a weekend? The Premier League has money.
Okay.
I guess, okay. I mean, 1 million a game.
So in total, it's about 30, let's say 36. How many match days are there? 36 or 38?
38.
38. So 38 million.
$500K of a team.
So
like one
most exciting match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did you think?
I thought like maybe most exciting performance or something.
The most exciting game every match day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
not every team gets the
so
money.
$500K each team then.
Yeah. But again, $500K.
So all I'm saying is that the Premier League is going to spend $38 million a season to do this.
Yep.
Which is a lot of money, sure. In terms of I mean, Chelsea spend $100 million on one transfer, so
Yeah.
right?
I think it helps the smaller teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on like Ipswich, and I just did the math, you'd be giving each player about an extra $28,000.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be necessarily going to the players. Would
Yeah,
it?
yeah, no, I'm not saying he's going to the players. I'm just saying he's going to the club, and they can
Do whatever
I'm
they
sure
want
they
with
can
it.
figure out a way to get players involved or paid.
Right.
But it's just going to help them financially because
I feel like you'd have to do something to really incentivize the coaches from a tactic standpoint, because you'd have to change how certain teams line up. Like when most teams go to the Etihad, they're going to sit in a low block. They're going to play with their entire team behind the ball, and they're going to hope that City scores 2 or less goals and they can counter and get a draw. So you'd have to do something to incentivize tactically. But like when so much money is riding on getting into the Champions League, winning the Premier League, or getting relegated, I don't think there would be much change of behavior, just because when you look at the two incentives, I think most people would. Well,
they'll pick the other one.
I'd rather stay in the Premier League than get 10 of these over the course of a season, just because, number one, I'm staying in the Premier League. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no guarantees you actually win it either. You could play a really exciting game, and then a few hours later, bam.
Yeah. I like your idea.
It is interesting.
It's a dream.
It's an interesting idea.
I know, but it's a good idea. I was gonna say the exact same thing that Joe was saying, is that you think about Manchester United, like naturally a coach like Ten Hag. I mean, maybe that's a bad example, because I don't think he knows what he wants to do, right?
I don't think. Yeah, he's figuring it out still.
But let's say, for example, you take somebody like if it was Atletico Madrid, Simeone. I know it's not the Premier League, but he plays a very defensive system. It's not the most exciting when it comes to like what fans want to watch, right? So to Joe's point, like you're essentially you're basically just punishing managers that don't play an offensive style of football. How are you going to do that when you're a team that's bottom of the table or mid-table and you're going to the Etihad to play against Manchester City? You see what I'm saying? So I think I like the incentive. The incentive is good. I think it needs to be for something else. Maybe not necessarily the game of the week, but it needs to be for something that happened either in the game.
Goal of the week. Like the team that scores the goal of the week gets
something like that. But I like that because I think it would make things a little bit more exciting. I don't know.
Can you imagine if you score goal of the week, you're that player, you get $1 million on your own. People will be shooting for
nobody's passing the ball anymore.
Yeah, right.
Especially Salah. He's not passing the ball anymore.
No chance.
All right, cool. So let's move on to the last segment for today. Fun facts. Did you guys bring a fun fact? I know you didn't, because you never do. Did you? Oh, damn.
I brought the card trivia.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Card trivia. Let's go. So we're going to add this as a segment, because I keep forgetting to write it on here. So instead of just the fun facts, we need to find a fun name for this segment. So think about it, Joe. Bring it back on the next episode. Bring back the name of this segment. But basically, the segment is Joe's very into collecting sports cards, specifically, soccer, football cards. He's been giving us a little bit of trivia on the value of some of these cards. So I'm interested to hear what the trivia is for today.
All right. Last one, I gave each one of your favorite players. So now I was thinking like, man, should I do super popular players, old players, new players? I kind of went one old, one relatively new-ish, but still kind of old. One of my favorite players, Eden Hazard.
In his prime?
What was his this is over the course of history. What dollar amount did his most valuable card sell for? We will go to Javi first.
So I'm just trying to think, because Nunez was like 1,300, somewhere around that. Nunez was like,
I don't even remember.
Nunez was 1,100, I think.
1,100, somewhere around there, right? Casillas was...
And keep in mind, this is per Copilot, so who knows if there's other things that are out there, but we're just going off of what Microsoft Copilot can pull off the internet.
Casillas was like 4,000, somewhere in the 4,000s,
No,
I believe.
7,500 or
8,700.
8,700. Eden Hazard, who is definitely more expensive than Nunez in terms of his card value, I would assume. Probably pretty close to Casillas, I would say. Somewhere around that range. I am going to go, because he had some moments, man. And he's one of those players that people describe as like one of the best ever when he was in his top form. So I'm going to go 9,300.
Okay.
Georgie.
7,000.
Both bust. Javi got the 9 right. $900.
What? The most expensive Eden Hazard card is $900?
And then I went on eBay just to like double check. The most expensive one I could find on eBay was like $130.
What? That's interesting.
It's interesting.
Who sets the price for these things, man?
The market, man. The market. You listen to the people. The thing I
true.
can think of is that like I don't think soccer cards were super, super, super popular when he was
That makes
coming
sense.
up. And then like he became one of those people who had so much promise and then kind of busted.
But the thing about
Yeah.
Casillas is the same thing.
No. But you also, their value goes up as time goes on.
If you have like that I think if people have that lasting feeling of you of like you
Like
contributed
Casillas.
something, because for him, if you think about it, if you're a Belgium fan, you're probably not a huge fan of Hazard. He played great for you for a little bit, but never won you anything, and then didn't maximize his career. Real Madrid fans have no interest in him, so you're looking at a market of potentially just Chelsea fans.
Yeah.
And I think they might like other people, but I don't know. $900 is what I found.
Interesting.
This other one, arguably one of the GOATs in their position of all time, Roberto Carlos.
Oof.
Oh.
I feel like a lot of nostalgia heads would go for a Roberto Carlos card.
9K.
The floor is yours. 9K. Okay.
9K. I'm going to go 7,500.
The winner, under and very close. Price was $79.99.
Vamos.
Javi.
Nobody beats my boy Casillas, by the way.
So that's 1 point for
Wait.
Javi today.
Casillas was what?
8,000 something.
87.
No, there's definitely.
Nobody
So
beats
Roberto was
Casillas.
close.
How in the world is Roberto Carlos not more than Casillas? Especially the older people.
Again, it goes back to what Joe was saying. It just is the
based
way
on
it is.
Like his free kicks. would be-
Spain captain, though. Won a World Cup.
Yeah, but people watch the free kick.
Played for...
Well, Roberto Carlos won a World Cup too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he wasn't the captain, though.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah.
Real Madrid.
Again,
Both
there's a
play
lot of
for Real
unexplained.
Madrid,
And I guarantee some of these cards are printed differently. Because like he said, there's cards that are like the Kaboom cards, right? That are more higher rarity or whatever.
Look at this guy
So
learning all these
listen,
things
I'm into
about
Yu-Gi-Oh,
sports cards.
so I
Yeah.
I look at my Yu-Gi-Oh cards a little bit and the value of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But yeah, it's like some prints are just specifically like a Kaboom print, so it's gonna go for more money than regardless of what the player is, right? So, okay, cool. All right, well, let me finish it off with this fun fact trivia question. All right, and I'm gonna give you guys most of the facts. So. I'm just gonna ask one question today. Like last time I asked you guys like
7 questions and we got all of them wrong. Name the person who scored a hat trick. What date?
Okay.
Time? How old were they?
All right. Roy Hodgson and Carlo Ancelotti. Okay. Roy Hodgson started his managerial career in the same year that Carlo Ancelotti started his playing career. Can you believe that? Tell me what year that was. I'll go to Georgie first. First of all, that fun fact is just kind of crazy.
That is very crazy. So, hold on, repeat the question again.
Roy Hodgson started his managerial career in the same year that Carlo Ancelotti started his playing career. What year was that?
$1975.
Okay. Joe, over to you.
1982.
Georgie was so close. So close. 1976.
No way.
1976. First of all, how is Roy Hodgson still alive?
I was like thinking, there's no way it's in the 70s.
Yeah.
Is it?
1976, Roy Hodgson started at Halmstad, and Carlo Ancelotti started at Parma.
That's crazy, man.
That is crazy.
So there's your fun fact of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
Good job, Georgie.
Yeah, well done, Georgie. And you were under, so Price is Right rules, you win, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Is that how it works? All right. Well, appreciate you all sticking around. A little bit of a shorter podcast today. I don't know if you guys like that. I bet most people probably prefer it a little bit. Last 2 episodes, we've gone almost 2 hours. Make sure you guys go ahead, subscribe, follow, and all of that good stuff. And again, one more time, if you're going to Columbus, Ohio to watch Manchester City take on Chelsea, we will be there as well, getting lots of content for the Next Goal Wins podcast. I'm super excited. I was telling these guys earlier, I'm excited for the Halloween episode because that'll be fun because we'll dress up again. That was a good time. I got a lot of good comments from people that I knew about watching those episodes. But in general, I'm just excited to get this thing going and starting it again because we took a little bit of a break, which is okay. But now we're back, baby. We're back. Any final thoughts, Georgie?
See you guys in Columbus.
Joe?
See you in Columbus.
All right. We will catch you guys in the next one.